We're going to do this high desert pioneer style, which that's a channel if you don't know who I'm talking about. I really can't chew gum and walk at the same time, but this could get choppy. We're going to go move the water and move the cows. What is she doing over there? Anyhow, years ago, like over 10, maybe 12 years ago, I had a conversation with a chief of police, which is, it may sound like that's a big deal, but the guy's real approachable, and he was also familiar with my family, so we saw the guy around. It wasn't like it was a complete stranger. And I'd asked him, I said, hey, it's not a complaint or anything, but I have an aunt who lives in town, and it seems every 6 months, 9 months, the police department goes to a apartment complex right behind her house, about a 200 unit apartment complex, and does a sweep. And they get all these guys that are parole violators, warrants, find drugs, pick up a couple of guns, this kind of thing. And this happened 6 or 8 times before I asked him about it. And I said, it just seems weird. It's the same place all the time, and it's like you guys are fishing in a barrel, which is good. I thought, you're picking these people out of this apartment complex, but why aren't you doing this to other apartment complexes? It has me concerned because my aunt lives right next door. But why is it always this one? You don't hear about this story in any other apartment complex. There's zillions of apartments here. Like that. And the whole time he's smiling. I said, so why is this place special? He said, well, it's special because we have services. I go, okay, I don't know what the hell that means. He says, the state of California pays real estate, apartment owners, will pay them a pretty good fund for there's programs for people that are, well, specifically for ex-cons. You get out of prison, you get 6 months. When you get out of prison, you get 6 months free rent, paid for by, I believe, the state taxpayer. And what they do is the state, this bureaucracy, this program, finds apartment complexes that are cool with this. And this one that's next door to my aunt's, they were totally cool with it. The whole place was filled with ex-cons. And they were paid by the state, guaranteed money and all that. And so there's a whole bunch of these people in there. And with some have their families with them, whatever. They're not all doing bad, but enough of them are. The whole area, it's got crime everywhere. It's real rundown. And so he says, the chief, he says they do this all over the state, in some places in the state of California, but they never go to the police department or the sheriff's department to get their input. Hey, yeah, it's okay. You can put all these ex-cons here in the same apartment complex. We don't care what it does to this neighborhood. Go ahead and do it. It's good. It's good for the economy. And he says what happens is he had no say-so or input whether or not this was a good idea. The state just goes and dumps these things everywhere. And with it comes all the problems. Now their claim is that, well, it's good for the economy in your community or whatever, but the crime isn't worth it. The crime outweighs it. And so he says where they have very little control over what the state does on that level, they do know there are problem people inside of these complexes, and they go in and do these sweeps. And they'll get so many handguns, so many guns, they'll get so much drugs, parole violators, warrants, shenanigans going on, and they haul these people back into jail. And so I said, well, how does this work? He says, I said, how is this right? He goes, well, the people don't find out about it till after the fact, or not enough of them before they could fight this sort of thing. And there's little pockets like this all over the community, the town of Fresno. They have little pockets like this where it's ex-cons. But there's also, like right now, there's a big push. We have all these homeless. We have a real homeless problem. I'll make another video on that. But you look at, after the big earthquake they had in San Francisco way back, 90s or whatever, they built these tent cities for all the people without homes. And there was homeless there, you know, people that were hobos and stuff before the earthquake. But because they had all these services, the entire West Coast homeless hobo population showed up to San Francisco and Santa Cruz because they were feeding and housing these people. Live on the beach, great view. I mean, the tent city in Santa Cruz was walking, this is 100 yards from the beach. Great setup, give you shelter, give you food. And so all the hobos showed up over there. And they were there for a couple years. It destroyed the economy as far as tourism, because they're pissing all over the place and, you know, running around naked and everything. And so finally they had an election, brought in some kind of conservative people, which is really hard to do in Santa Cruz. They couldn't do it now. And they tore down Tent City and kicked all the hobos out. And so what I learned from this chief of police is when you provide services, even though you may be doing it for the best intentions, it becomes, your community becomes a magnet for this kind of activity. You got a homeless problem, you want to do something for the poor homeless, well, guess what? All the other homeless that don't have this in other communities, they're coming to your town. And so that's kind of the gist of it. You got to be careful when you're offering to help people. And you'll the same thing too. They'll bus them in. You get homeless from all over the place that aren't from your town, but because you're providing services, they're now yours. I don't know if it'll make any sense, but I'm supposed to be turning the water off. Other than that, lost my train of thought. But I thought to this day they're still going through the same apartment complex, doing sweeps and rousting these ex-cons out of the apartment complex, and it's just a revolving door. It just goes in a circle, and that's why he was laughing. He said, "It's just a goofy setup that's foisted upon us, and we have to do something. We can't just let them dump all these ex-cons in our town as though it's no big deal, and not go in there to put pressure on them." So every 6 to 8 months they go through there and make themselves known, arrest a bunch of people to keep that group in line. And for the most part, it seems to work. It'd be much better had these people been spread out in other parts of the state, or make them go back to the community where they committed. That's the other thing. A lot of these people, they didn't commit crimes here. They're not from here. They're from the north or the south or whatever the case is, but yet we got them. They don't belong to this area. They didn't commit a crime here. We didn't process them or whatever, but because we have services, they become ours. Anyhow, this dummy over here, she knows how to get under the hot wire and escape, but for some reason can never get back in. Stupid. Love you, God bless.